This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, Travis. Our chair is not here as of yet, so would you mind acting as chair when we begin?
Works for me.
Okay. We're just looking for one more member, so we'll just give it another couple minutes. We are still one person shy of a quorum, but we can begin, Travis, whenever you wish.
All right, let's get started, I guess. Do we have to do an attendance or go around for the introductions real quick?
I'm just
I just
use
want to call everybody off.
the people list, the attendee list that's in the have.
That works. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Sorry, did you want me to call the roll?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. Brian Doherty, MRPC.
Present.
Amanda Reed, Lunenburg Planning.
Present.
Daryl Amaro, Mass DOT.
Present.
Myself, Brad Harris, MRPC. Sarah Bradbury, Mass DOT.
Here.
Brian Doheny, Town of Ashburnham.
Here.
George Cahaley, Mart.
Present.
George Snow, MRPC.
Here.
Glenn Eaton, MRPC.
Here.
Guy Corpizero, Town of Winchendon.
Here.
Janet Tice, Town of Shirley.
Here.
Sherry Bean, MRPC.
Here.
Travis Condon, North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce.
Here.
And Tyler Godin, MRPC.
Here.
So we have two community members, appointed community members, and one organizational member. So we are one either organizational member short. So we don't have a quorum at this point.
We just have somebody else signing on right now. Nick Erickson just joined.
Okay. So that will give us a quorum.
All right, perfect. So we can move on to the next item then?
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on. Are there any public comments? Does anyone joining today want to weigh in on any of the items on the agenda?
I do not see any hands raised.
All right, so I guess we'll move on to item number 3, approval of the November 8th, 2023 minutes. No, Brad has those up, and those also were sent to everybody with the packet earlier this month.
Any corrections?
Presented.
Okay. So by consensus, are there any changes or any things that need to be adjusted in the minutes? I see no hands raised, so if everyone agrees by consensus, we'll adopt the minutes as presented.
All right, thank you. And let's move on to item number 4, the Montachusett Joint Transportation Committee bylaws discussion. I know these were reviewed at the last time. Some input was given to Brad, and I believe those changes were sent over. Kind of
Yeah,
assume that everybody had a chance to look those over. Brad, can you go over just in case anybody
sure.
missed it last time?
Yeah, just briefly, the point had been raised before regarding membership in the Joint Transportation Committee. You'll remember that the MJTC membership, the communities can appoint up to 2 members, one representing the planning department, and the other the Board of Selectmen or Mayor's office. And we do everything by consensus at the JTC, so there's no real formal votes taken. But if a formal vote is required, the members present at the duly quorumed meeting are allowed to vote. And if there are 2 members from one community, the community only gets 1 vote, and those 2 members need to decide who would vote for that community. But the question was brought up: what if a person was appointed by 2 separate communities to be the MJTC rep? Would they be able to do that? And if so, what would be the voting process? So basically, we came up with 3 options that we've been discussing, and they are up on the screen, as you can see. The first option, or what we're calling, the current bylaws, shows you what we have listed and how the membership is set up. 1 representative of the planning board, 1 representative of the city with Towns Board of Selectmen. And then Article 6 of the bylaws cover how formal votes are done. So the options we reviewed as possible for the MJTC to consider: the first would be no change to the bylaws, so it's left as is. The second would be a change under Article 2 regarding membership. We would add item D: an individual appointed to the MJTC can only be appointed as a representative for 1 community only. Appointment of the same individual by multiple communities is not allowed. And there would be no change then to Article 6 regarding formal votes. Then there is option C, with changes as follows. In Article 2, there would be item D added: an individual may be appointed as a representative to the MJTC by more than 1 community, as long as all communities involved are aware of the appointment situation and have formally agreed to the multiple appointments. And then there would be a note in the last paragraph: in the event a formal vote is required and more than 1 representative from a community is present, or a member that represents more than 1 community is present, members shall follow procedures outlined in Article 6. So in Article 6, we'd have under formal votes the addition of the wording: each community and organization member of the MJTC casts only 1 vote, regardless of the number of representatives from that community or organization present, or the number of communities a member is representing at the meeting when the vote is to occur. In the case of an individual representing more than 1 community, that representative shall only be able to cast 1 vote on behalf of all communities they serve, unless they have obtained written formal notice from the different community boards as to how to vote and proceed on that particular issue under review by the MJTC. So basically, that would require, if a person was representing 2 communities, they have 2 specific notices. One saying that could possibly say the board recommends we vote no, and the other one could be say the opposite, or could say the same thing: we recommend we vote no on both from both communities. So therefore, we could count it as 2 separate votes because we have notice from the communities involved. Other than that, they'd only be allowed to cast one particular vote for that particular issue. So those are the options that are presented to the MJTC. So the question becomes, should we proceed with this bylaw change? Should we clarify the situation, or should we leave the bylaws as is? And I think because of this issue, it'll be a formal vote of the members present. So however the JTC would like to proceed is the question at this point.
Guy Carvassera here. I just want to ask a question in regards to number 5. Actually, never mind. I just answered my own question, but I'll wait for the vote to give you my opinion.
Okay. There is a raised hand from Nick Erickson from Fitchburg.
Thank you. I was just wondering if there's a specific example of this that's necessitating the change. Do we have a person representing two cities or towns right now?
Yes, Elizabeth Wood raised this question. She has been appointed by the city of Leominster, where she is employed, and then also was appointed by the town of Ashby. So she raised this issue if it was possible and if it was doable under the bylaws. Our perspective, or my perspective when this happens to be that we want to have as many people involved as possible, and that formal votes usually are extremely rare. I think we've had maybe 1 or 2 in my number of years here on with the JTC. But still, the question I think should be addressed one way or the other in our bylaws. Any other
Thank you.
comments? So is there a motion by anyone to move one of the options, A, B, or C?
Guy Carvassera, Winchendon, I move that we adopt Article, the third one, C.
Second.
See, adding, okay. And there's a second from Nick Erickson. Okay. So that motion is made and seconded that we go with option C, which allows for appointment a representative for 1 or more communities. And in case of formal votes, there needs to be a documentation from the communities to cast those votes, or they just vote as one person at that time. Any other discussion or points? All right, I can read the roll for a formal vote from the members who are present. You would like me to proceed? Members present, we have Janet Tice, Town of Shirley.
I vote nay.
Guy Corbacero, Town of Winchendon.
I vote yes.
Nick Arison, City of Fitchburg.
Yes.
And Travis Condon, North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I believe I've gotten all the members present. If anyone else, if I've missed anyone, let me know. George, you officially, Mart is an ex officio member and not an organization member. So, like Mass DOT, you're an ex officio member who can provide input and support, but technically, I guess you're not a voting member.
Okay.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, with that, then it would be a 3-to-1 in favor of yes to adopt bylaw change option C. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for everybody for putting up with this over the last few months. Thank you.
So now I believe we have the next item on the agenda, which is the Eastern Communities Transit Development Plan, the TDP, the presentation of those draft results.
And that's going to be by Tyler Godin of the MRPC staff.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, I'm just gonna pull up my presentation in a sec. Let me see. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay, so like it says on the agenda, I'm just gonna go over the draft results of the MART Eastern Communities TDP and the map that you're seeing on the slide just shows the study area, which is Air, Devens, Harvard, Lancaster, Littleton, and Shirley. So the purpose of this TDP is basically to serve as a strategic guide for public transportation in this region. The TDP includes an analysis of existing services, demographic data, and the services and facilities within the region. A survey was also conducted to get public input on transit. And using all this information, we will make recommendations that will help optimize transit services within the region. So just some background on this region. The total population of the region at the time of the 2020 census was just over 41,000. This region has seen a total population increase of 8.4% since 2010, when the population was just over 38,000. The total land area for this region is about 98 square miles, giving the region a population density of 416 people per square mile. And as of 2020, it employed about 23,000 people. So even though there's no cities in this region, it still employs quite a few people. So looking at some of the existing services within the region, there's quite a few, but there isn't any like fixed bus service within the region. The map that you can see here just shows the entire service area for MART and what the transit services are within the region, the fixed routes that is. So some of the services within this region are the Boston Shuttle, which is mostly for medical purposes. It has a couple stops within this region at the Montachusett campus in Devens, and I believe at the Littleton commuter rail station as well. And this just connects riders with medical facilities in the greater Boston area. There's also Devens On Demand within this region, which is an on-demand taxi service that provides rides to and from the Devens area. The Devens Workforce Ride Program, which is focused on connecting riders with the commuter rail stations, local pickup locations, and it's designed around workforce needs. The Harvard Commuter Shuttle, which is pretty new, just started in November, which I think is a great idea. It connects people from the Harvard Town Hall to the Littleton commuter rail station, so connecting transit with transit. MART Connects, which in this region is only available in Lancaster. And then there's also MART Route 8, which is hard to see on the map, but it's actually part of the green routes that you can see on the map. And it just has one stop in Lancaster, just barely gets into Lancaster. But this could provide a nice connection to, Leominster and Fitchburg from within this region. And then some other services, which I've mentioned before. The MBTA commuter rail is available in Air, Shirley, and Littleton within this region. And then also the Lowell Regional Transit Authority has one stop in Littleton at the building that previously housed IBM. I'm not sure what it is now, but there's one stop there which could provide a nice connection to the greater Lowell area. And then looking at the demographic analysis. So for the demographic analysis, we focused on looking at data to find where the most transit-dependent people were in this region. The map on this slide shows the percentage of households with a disability by block group. We created a map like this for each demographic category that we looked at. So you can see those categories on the left: population density, elderly, income, disabled population, and limited vehicle accessibility. So for limited vehicle accessibility, that would be like households with no vehicles, or only one vehicle. And for all the analysis, we did it by block group, which I think was the best method for doing this, but it did prove to be a little tricky comparing them to each other because, for example, like air has a block group that's 2/10 of a square mile, whereas Lancaster has a block group that's almost 19 square miles. So for that reason, it was a little tricky. So for each map, like I said, for each data set, we created a map and also a table that accompanied it. And based on each demographic factor, we gave each block group a score, depending on depending on how transit dependent each block group was. So the higher the score, the more transit dependent that block group we determined it to be. So the block group we found to be the most transit dependent was in air. It's basically downtown air north of Main Street. And the reason we found this to be such a transit dependent block group was because it has a relatively high population density at over 2,000 people per square mile, and it also has a high population of people 60 years or older. And many of the households in this block group had limited vehicle accessibility. So now just going on to the services and facilities within this region. So it's important to look at services and facilities because these are basically like the destinations within the region, and it's where a lot of the jobs are. So there's 38 major employers in the region. Majority of them are in Air, Littleton, and Devens, and Shirley didn't have that many total major employers, but they had two of the top three in terms of number of employees. The largest employer in this region is the Neshoba Valley Medical Center, which employs nearly 900 people. The total current employment within this region is just over 23,000 as of 2020 and is expected to grow by 4% by 2030. Within this region, Littleton currently has the highest total employment with about 7,600. Harvard is expected to experience the highest employment growth rate between 2020 and 2030 with an increase of over 12% or over 800 new jobs. We also looked at elderly housing in the region, which was mostly located in Air or Littleton, and Shirley also had one. And then we also looked at schools. Like any other region, there's plenty of schools in this area, and the medical facilities as well, which we mentioned before. The biggest one is the Neshoba Valley Medical Center. Now getting into the survey, which we released in late September and finished in early November. So it's just slightly over a month. People had to fill this out. We received 126 responses on the survey. Air had the most responses and Lancaster had the least. 56% of the respondents were over the age of 60, and there were no respondents 16 or under. And we distributed these at senior centers, and like they usually do, we had a lot of responses from the seniors. Most of the respondents stated that they do not currently use public transit, but were likely to use it if it became more available. But that was kind of interesting because a lot of the respondents also weren't aware of all the transit services within the region. And the image you can see here is a word cloud, which was based on a question within the survey, which asked, what specific locations would you like to see have a stop if MART were to establish a shuttle route in this region? So these are the suggested locations that respondents gave. So the bigger the word or the phrase, the more it was requested. So the most requested location, to me, surprisingly, was the Harvard Center / general store. And then just some other notes from the survey. Majority of respondents said that weekend service was important, but for night service, it was split about 50-50. And then when given a choice of general destinations that respondents would like to reach using public transit, shopping locations was actually the most popular with 64%. And so based on the findings of the previous sections within the TDP, we made some recommendations to help optimize transit services within this region. Here are 3 that I picked out for this presentation. One is to improve connectivity between transit locations. So kind of like the Harvard commuter shuttle, they're connecting riders from Harvard to the Littleton commuter rail, connecting transit with transit, basically like that. And I think there's definitely some good opportunities for that within this region with MART routes that have the MART Route 8 that has a stop in Lancaster, and the Lowell Regional Transit Authority, the route that stops in Littleton. I think there's some good opportunity to connect transit with transit there. And then just based on the survey, so many people requested transit services to grocery stores and shopping centers, so I had to put that in as a recommendation. And then also we basically just compiled a list based on the survey and some other findings within the services and facilities section of a list of locations to consider for new or additional transit services. And that is all I have for my presentation.
Thank you.
Any questions for Tyler from anyone? Do not see any raised hands, so.
I believe we're moving on to item number 6 then, the Montachusett FY 24 to 28 Transportation Improvement Program. We're going to have a review of amendment number 2 and then see if we can provide a recommendation to the MPO on that.
That is Brian.
Brian, whenever you're ready.
Sure, let me just try to get the handout up on my screen. It's giving me some issues. So I'm not sure everyone can see my screen.
No, I don't see anything, Brian.
Okay. Tyler, would you mind, is there a formal way to get out of your screen share? Maybe that has something to do with it.
I think I stopped sharing.
Let me try one more time.
It said you're sharing now, Brian.
Oh, it does, okay. Can you see the agenda?
No.
Sorry about that. It's just we do have a summary of an amendment that would be helpful to have up on the screen. So let me just try one more thing. Okay. Okay, so we have amendment number 2 of the 2024 through 28 TIP, which the MPO put out for a 21-day public comment period in November. That's being November. That comment period started November 28th and it ends this coming Monday, December 18th. So this is an opportunity to provide information to the JTC and solicit a comment from the JTC at this meeting. Of course, you could make a comment individually all the way up until Monday. So ultimately, what we're looking for is consensus recommendation to the MPO at its meeting next week to endorse amendment number 2. So this would be an amendment to the transit section of the 2024 TIP, federal fiscal year 2024. There's a number of changes involved with the amendment, several cost changes along with some changes of funding sources. You can see the detailed summary here. Basically, this is federal fiscal year 2024, the transit section of the TIP. All the highlighted projects have some sort of change. So you can see most of the projects are affected. Those in red, there are 10 projects in red that will be removed. Some of these costs will be distributed to the existing projects, which are highlighted in yellow. Those are the cost changes, number of cost increases here. And as well as an addition of 6 new projects, which are highlighted in green. So a lot of projects came in at higher costs. The Transit Authority anticipated lower bids coming into the fiscal year. That didn't prove to be true. There's also some estimated funds that they anticipated that came in lower than that they anticipated in May 6 months ago. So we've seen a number of these cost changes with the amendments on the highway side as well. So this is commonplace the last year or so. Overall, this amendment reflects the actual operating cost this fiscal year. So that's the reason for the changes. As I mentioned, this is put together as amendment number 2, the 24 through 28 TIP, and MPO members will be voting to endorse at next week's meeting. If there's any questions on specific projects, George Kahali, maybe you could help me with those. Other than that, what we're looking for is a consensus recommendation to the MPO whether or not to endorse at the meeting next week.
If George is not speaking, Guy Corbacero suggests we endorse it.
Second that.
Okay. I don't see any other hands raised. So if there's no other, there's no issue, we'll assume it by consensus. The MJTC will recommend to the MPO that they endorse TIP amendment number 2. And I don't want no opposition. I see hands raised or anything, so we'll take that as a yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7 on the agenda, the contract status reports, the Federal Transit Administration, and then the RTA, and then the Mass DOT.
George, do you have anything you wanted to say on behalf of the RTA?
Yes, I have a couple of projects we are working on. For the MART fair changes, MART has implemented the fare changes approved by the advisory board earlier this year, with a reduction in fixed route fares from $1.25 to $1. And students will be riding fare free all over, as well as no cost transfers between regional routes. It has already been implemented, and the other project we are working on is MART electrification of bus fleet. The Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection recently awarded MART nearly about $2.5 million from funds available through the diesel emissions settlement with Volkswagen. These funds are being used to purchase 3 30-feet electric buses and charging units from BYD Auto over the next 12 and 18 months, allowing us to retire 3 2007 diesel buses. This is a great project for starting electrification of our buses and our fleet. The other project we are working on is the community connection grant we just received. MART began procurement of vendors to provide the right services for our community connections grant for transit-dependent residents of Bolton, Boxborough, Stowe, and Littleton. These transportation services will provide a means for individuals to access commuter rail services in South Acton and Littleton stations. For life needs shopping in Acton and Hudson, healthcare in Leominster, Concord and Boston, and other many activities. This is what I have for today. If any question, I can answer.
I don't see any hands up this time, George.
Okay, great. Thank you.
For the FTA side, Sherry or Tyler, could you just update the FTA work you're doing right now?
Sure. So what I've been working on is the coordinated public transit plan. I actually recently received MART's comments earlier this week, so I'm just going through those and hope to have a final document in the next month or two. And then I will present that to the JTC once that's complete.
And other than the TDP, the only other project that I have a brief update on is the Gardner bus stops, making them ADA compliant. We're working on a report for that right now. Kind of in the middle of analysis of that right now.
Okay. Thank you. Under Mass DOT, I have the following information. The next meeting of the Montachusett MPO will be next Wednesday, December 20th, and the time has been adjusted to 2 p.m. in order to accommodate Mass DOT and their staff regarding the chairman and so forth. So it will be at 2 p.m. We'll make sure that's well known to everybody and placed on our website. As mentioned, a major action item will be on the MART tip amendment number 2, and staff will also present some additional information regarding our Title VI report for this year, and we'll ask for MPO review and action on that program. There is one handout from the Division of Ecological Restoration regarding their culvert replacement grant program. DER is encouraging potential applicants to schedule a project inquiry call to DER staff, who will meet with applicants before the request for responses is released to discuss your potential project and its eligibility. This process is recommended, but it's optional, and it's intended to provide potential applicants with feedback on their project before submitting an application. Project inquiries must be requested by Thursday, January 18th of 2024. So there's some time for communities, if they're looking at a culvert plan, to talk to DER regarding project eligibility. In addition, the handout also discusses the Stream Community Program and the Culvert Replacement Municipal Assistance Grant Program. There are links provided on the handout for additional information. This notice is also posted on the MRPC website under announcements. And I believe these programs have also a January timeframe regarding application and so forth. So if there's any interest on the communities, take a look at this handout and also talk to Mass, come to our website and see what's also on there. We also have, as a handout, a copy of the TIP development memo that has been sent out to our member communities as well as posted to our website. This memo simply notifies communities and individuals and organizations of the upcoming work to be conducted on the development of the federal fiscal year 2025 to 2029 TIP. And it lists upcoming meetings where the TIP will be a major item of discussion. Basically, the beginning in January, this will be a recurring theme to the MJTC as we move to a possible endorsement of the TIP in May of next year. Other items, there's the Safe Streets for All. As I mentioned, we talked about the last meeting. We are in the midst of negotiating a contract with our preferred consultant at this time. That contract hopefully will be signed within the week, and then we'll begin the process of establishing a working group and an advisory committee to work on the development of a regional safety action plan that will eventually be able to be adopted by communities and seek implementation funds for some of the recommendations within that plan. And finally, just on a personal note, this will be my last MJTC meeting, as I will be retiring on January 5th of next year. And I want to thank everyone here for their participation and assistance, not only this past year, but also over the years. Many people have been part of this JTC for a long time. And I want to emphasize that your local input has been very important to this process and the successful completion of a lot of projects. And I hope that many of you will continue to work with JTC in the future. And again, I want to thank you for all your assistance over the years. And that's all I have on the Mass DOT side.
Thank you, and congratulations on your retirement. Appreciate all your service here.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So the next item on the agenda is the administrative matters, which we kind of already dove into a little bit, and then just the next MJTC meeting.
January 10th of 2024 at 2:30 p.m.
Thank you.
And be ready for the TIP discussions, which Brian will be enjoying presenting to you all.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, go ahead. Apologies.
I'm all set.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, publicly that we're all very appreciative to Brad for his service, almost 40 years in public service at MRPC and other jobs he had prior to that. So he's been, the rock of transportation planning in this organization, and he will definitely be missed by all. I don't want to advertise this too much, Brad, but you did say we could call you if we need to, and I want to personally thank you for that. But you will be sorely missed. We are moving forward with advertising. We have an internal advertising policy. We'll go through that. The commissioners are informed and so on. So, if anybody else wants to say something to Brad, this may be your last time. I would encourage you to speak up. Brad, thank you for everything you've done for our organization and the region.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I think people are too choked up to say anything.
Best wishes, Brad. You deserve it.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate all your help over the years too.
Brad, I hope you enjoy your retirement and have some fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy. I appreciate it.
Thank you for everything, Brad, on behalf of Shirley. Appreciate all your efforts on our behalf.
You're welcome. Thank you. So, I guess that's it. Next meeting again was January 10th.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
again,
Brad. Congrats.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
you.
We'll see you all later. I'm sure I'll run into you again later on. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.